The 2018 iPhone X Plus has actually been leaked. So just a few days ago, we got our first look at the first schematics of this new massive 6.5-inch iPhone that's going to be launched this September. And I also have so many more updates to talk about in terms of this iPhone. The resolution got leaked, the specs, some more camera details, screen protector leaks, the actual dimensions, and a few extra features. So yeah, buckle up because this is going to be a really exciting video. Get that popcorn ready and enjoy. Okay, so for those of you who haven't seen my previous videos, Apple is working on 4 new iPhone models for 2018. The iPhone X would be the first one. This would come with an updated and improved camera, improved specs such as the Apple A12 processor, and 4GB of RAM. Then Apple's also working on an iPhone X model, a cheaper version of the iPhone X essentially, so the iPhone X Lite. I've actually made a full separate video on this iPhone, so do check that on out if you want to know more about the iPhone X Lite. And then we have the iPhone SE 2, on which I've done multiple videos on actually. And then finally, we have Apple's true flagship for 2018. It's not going to be the iPhone X or the iPhone X Lite, obviously. It would be this brand new iPhone X Plus. So this would essentially be a much larger version of the iPhone X with a 6.5-inch instead of a 5.8-inch display. And the reason why this phone is created is because, well, we don't really have an iPhone 8 Plus replacement yet. So, I mean, yeah, the iPhone X does come with a 5.8-inch display rather than the 5.5 that the iPhone 8 Plus comes with. So on paper, the iPhone X seems larger than the iPhone 8 Plus in terms of the display size, but that's not really the case because we have a much wider aspect ratio display. So an 18.5:9 aspect ratio display compared to the more traditional 16:9 on the iPhone 8 Plus. So the entire surface area of the display is actually smaller on the iPhone X than on the iPhone 8 Plus. In fact, there's actually this quick schematic that Apple themselves posted on apple.com, the Human Interface Guidelines for App Development, and here they actually show that the iPhone X and the 4.7-inch non-Plus iPhones, they have exactly the same width of 375 points. The only difference is that the iPhone X is taller. And if any of you own or have used an iPhone Plus model, you know that they actually come with this Plus interface, where if you rotate the phone, not only do you get the home screen and landscape, but also some apps such as the settings, the calendar, notes, and many more. They have the secondary menu, and here you can actually see more items being displayed. So this is very, very useful to have, sort of like having a mini iPad interface on an iPhone. But we don't have this on the iPhone X, by the way. So UI-wise, the iPhone X acts just like a slightly larger version of the iPhone 7 or the iPhone 8, the 4.7 inches models, which is what Apple seems to consider them as well. So the iPhone Xs are basically just larger, slightly larger versions of the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 7 and 6 and so on. And this is why this year we'll finally be getting an upgrade to the iPhone 8 Plus, and that's going to be the iPhone X Plus. So a 6.5-inch monster, which would actually compete with phones such as the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 in terms of the display size. So this is a sovath concept on how I believe the iPhone X Plus would look like. So essentially just a larger iPhone X. Now, some of you might be wondering what's going to happen to the notch, as in, is it going to get smaller? Well, there's actually 2 ways in which Apple could be doing this. So Apple could either keep the notch the same size as on the iPhone 7, as on the iPhone X, sorry, but obviously since the iPhone X Plus would come with a larger display, since it's the larger device, we will have much more room on the left and the right hand sides of the notch for more icons and indicators. Or option number 2 is for Apple to make the notch larger just for design purposes to keep it consistent with the scaled up version of the iPhone X. Now, there are some reports that Apple is working on making the notch smaller, but that won't be happening in 2018, just in 2019. By the way, more about the 2019 iPhones in this video. Now, in terms of the display itself, we've actually had a very, very big leak by BJR. So they've actually found that multiple Apple devices were running iOS 12 and they were visiting their website in February of this year. So Apple was clearly testing iOS 12 ahead of their June WWDC event and ahead of the Beta 1 release. By the way, check out my top 35 plus iOS 12 features video here. But BJR has also found that one of their iOS 12 devices that they saw running on their website was actually having a resolution of 414 by 896. Now, this resolution is actually in points, not in pixels. That's why it's so low. And if you take a look at Apple's table of the UI kit size and points, the closest one to 414 by 896 is actually 414 by 736, which by the way is for the iPhone 8 Plus and the iPhone 7 Plus. Now in points, the width of this new resolution is the same as on the iPhone 8 Plus, but this brand new device is actually taller than the 8 Plus. Okay, so what's the actual resolution in pixels? Well, you just need to multiply this by a factor of 2.608. So this is the multiplier factor that Apple is using for their Plus models of the iPhone. And when you do that, you actually get 2688 by 1242, which would be the actual resolution of this new iPhone 10 Plus. Now let's do a bit more math. So at this resolution, at a display size of 6.5 inches, this would actually translate to 455 ppi, which by the way is actually just 3 ppi less than what the current iPhone 10 has. So this is looking quite legit. Okay, so what else do we know in terms of this iPhone 10 Plus? Well, quite a few things have been leaked over the past few days and the past few weeks. So we've had some more reports that Apple would be including a dual SIM tray for this iPhone, just because it comes in a larger display size and a larger size overall. So we'll actually have a bit more room inside this phone. And honestly, I don't see Apple having two separate SIM trays. So I think they'll probably include a SIM tray with two slots, one for each SIM card. So similar to what we have on the Galaxy S9 Plus with a dual SIM tray. Now, this would actually be a very useful feature to have for people that have multiple SIM cards, one personal, for example, one for work. And in that case, you would be able to keep both of these in the same smartphone without having to get a separate smartphone. A lot of people actually have a main iPhone and then they get a secondary cheap Android phone for their second SIM card, their personal, for example, or their work. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense for Apple to include this. This way, they'll keep people away from switching to Android just by including two SIM slots in an iPhone. Now, something pretty big happened over the last few days. So aside from just this resolution leak, Russian website wisla.com posted a few schematics on both the iPhone 10 Lite as well as the iPhone 10 Plus. Now, I've actually talked about the iPhone 10 Lite schematics in this video. So in this video, I'm only going to talk about the iPhone 10 Plus ones. And here we can actually see that the notch, it does appear to be the same size as on the smaller iPhone 10. So this is some awesome news. In this case, it means that we would actually get some more space on the sides for more status icons, which is awesome. And then in terms of the actual dimensions, the iPhone 10 Plus measures in at 77.41 millimeters wide, 157.53 millimeters tall, and 7.68 millimeters thick. So essentially 6.51 millimeters wider, 13.93 millimeters taller, and about the same thickness when compared to the regular iPhone 10. And then Gordon Kelly has actually obtained some iPhone 10 Plus schematics from case manufacturer Ghost Tech. So these are some different schematics. And here we can actually see a slight variation in terms of the actual size, but it's a very, very minimal one, so less than a millimeter. But then the notch does appear to be the same size as on the iPhone 10, again, in the schematics as well. So it seems very likely that Apple won't be making the notch bigger just to keep the design consistent, which is great, again, because this means that we'll actually be getting more functionality out of the iPhone 10 Plus, essentially a larger display on the top, you can put it that way. And then a report coming from Nikkei says that Intel has actually started manufacturing the XMM 7560 modem chips for this year's iPhone. And by the way, Apple's actually now switched to Intel from Qualcomm entirely when it comes to the modem chips. So this new 7560 modem would be actually built on a 14 nanometer process, and it would also be able to offer speeds of up to 1 gigabit per second cellular speeds, with also support for up to 35 LTE networks. LTE bands. And then Nikkei also reports that Intel would be working with Apple to develop the XMM 8000 chip. So this would be for the 2019 iPhones, and this would actually be able to offer 5G connectivity for 2019. I don't personally think that 5G is actually coming next year in 2019. I think that Apple will keep that to 2020 when the technology is a bit more developed. But essentially, Intel would be able to offer that chip for Apple in 2019. And then the Bell Korea, another trusted source when it comes to Apple leaks, reports that Apple has ordered 45 million 6.5-inch display panels for 2018 compared to 25 million, which is what they had last year for the iPhone 10, as well as 30 million panels for that 6.1-inch iPhone. So essentially that means that Apple thinks that the iPhone 10 Plus, so this year's flagship for 2018 essentially, it would be Apple's most successful iPhone of 2018, followed by the iPhone 10 Lite, which again I've done a video on that before here. And then the iPhone 10 would be the next one. And then we've also had one more leak when it comes to the 2018 iPhone's design. So this one comes from another case manufacturer, Olexar, and here we can see 3 screen protectors from the 3 new iPhone models in 2018. So the small one seems to be referred to as iPhone 9S, then we have the iPhone 9L, maybe for Lite, and then the iPhone 9P, maybe for Plus. So maybe Apple's going to be calling these iPhones iPhone 9s, maybe. That would be a bit weird. We've actually had some reports that Apple would be calling these the iPhone 11s or iPhone XI, Roman number for 11. I don't know, I personally think that simply calling them iPhone, so iPhone, iPhone Plus, then iPhone Lite would make the most amount of sense for 2018. But let me know in the comments, what do you think Apple should be calling these iPhones in 2018? And then DigiTimes Taiwan reported last week that Apple would be including a more powerful charger inside the box, an 18-watt charger compared to the 5-watt one that we currently get with the current generation iPhones. And the report also said that Apple would be changing the circuitry inside the 2018 iPhones in order to support even faster charging than the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 8 from this year, from 2017, last year essentially. And then also the cable inside the box would be USB-C to Lightning. So USB-C, that the USB-C end would connect to the charger, which would be a USB-C charger, and then Lightning would connect to the iPhones. So the connector inside the iPhones, it would still be a Lightning port, not USB Type-C. But then DigiTimes Taiwan, they've also said that in 2019, Apple will be switching to full USB Type-C entirely on the iPhones, which I'm really, really, really looking forward to. I have so many things to say about this topic, so maybe, just maybe, I'll make a separate video just on this. So maybe stay tuned for that. Definitely subscribe and enable notifications if you want to see more videos, more Leaks and Rumors episodes like this one, and more in-depth tech videos. And yeah, hit that bell. Don't forget about that bell. That way you'll be notified as soon as a new video comes out. And let me know in the comments what you guys think about Apple's new lineup of iPhones for 2018, for this year, and especially the iPhone 10 Plus. Would you be upgrading from the iPhone 10? Do you think that new Plus interface that we had on the old iPhone 8s, iPhone 8 Plus and 7 Plus and so on, is something that you miss or not? Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this. I'm Daniel. Feel free to like if you've enjoyed it. Let me know. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Son of Tech, signing out. Cheers.